Thank you so much for joining the Dr. Whisperer podcast show. I am your host, Sharon Feckety, and you are here to listen to others talk about the business of medicine. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody else that is in the business of medicine so we can all learn together. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Whisperer Show, where we talk about the business of medicine. And I am very happy today to have Samantha Varner, who is a profit coach, which I love because as I just said to Samantha before I hit record, like my doctors that I work with are brilliant. They can save lives. They can do incredible things. They could also, get their MBAs. Doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to make a profit. So with that, I'd like to welcome Samantha Varner to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to have a conversation today.
Yes, a conversation will be that. So as somebody who has navigated with doctors through the business of medicine for many years, what has been your impression of how, almost the same thing that I said, they're really, really great, obviously, at treating patients and saving lives, but where do you feel like they miss the boat?
I think doctors just end up in a position where they have created a business inadvertently by the way that their education and kind of their calling creates, but they don't necessarily have that business understanding or back end or just all of the details around business ownership. They often don't think of of themselves as entrepreneurs either, which I think it makes it hard because they're not looking at it as an entrepreneurial venture. They're looking at it as providing exceptional service to their patients. And what we see a lot in my coaching with doctors and in my past life in Canada in the Medical Association is just a lot of fear, a lot of worry, a lot of unknowing of who to even go to get the help that they need, or uncovering perhaps what the help they need is exactly.
Yes. And that word vulnerability, Samantha, is, one of my favorites. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, so who wouldn't word vulnerability? And I do find that there is a lot of fear and shame surrounding the not knowing of who to trust, the not knowing or admitting that they don't understand.
Yes.
They understand so much, right? I mean, it's almost when we're able to see it so clearly, like, wow, you could really, you could save somebody's life. And it's okay that you don't understand the financial portion of your business, right? So what has that been like? And how can we help these doctors break out of that vulnerable, or that pride, should I say, that they
I think the first and foremost thing that I ever learned speaking with doctors is not putting them on a pedestal, treating them exactly as any other client who is in a business, who is trying to figure out how to make it grow from where they currently are right through to whatever those goals are. And sometimes, honestly, it's the setting of the goal seems incomprehensible, but it's just having the conversation, opening the door for that discussion in asking the questions in a way that feels, hey, it's okay. It's okay to admit to me you don't know what you're doing in this area. It's okay to say, this seems really hard, or I've left it to somebody else, whether it's my office manager or whatever, to do. And now I'm realizing I really needed to keep a closer eye. It's that. It's just, I think, allowing that conversation to happen and have there be absolutely no judgment there. It's completely neutral. It's just a fact. It's also a fact that we can learn how to do this better, no matter what you're capable, right?
Yeah. So we are recording this show before Christmas, and we're talking about, all the boxes that must get wrapped. But this show is airing right at the beginning of 2023, a brand spanking new year. So I'm hoping, as I just got off with a client, we were talking about our intentions for 2023. What advice would you offer to the people that are in the industry to make these better decisions, besides the obvious, which would be to hire you?
Clearly, always
Clearly.
that. I think,
Yeah.
okay, I think the start always is to reflect backwards, to take the time. And this is hard, right? This is especially hard with this group of people, but take the time to reflect on what worked and what didn't last year, and what you loved about the way that your practice was running or scheduling or any of the pieces, billing, and what you hated, what you know was kind of that tripping point every week. It was like, this still is hard. Really reflecting on it, and then sitting down to make a plan as to capitalize on the things that work, leaning really heavily on what you're already exceptional at, and then making a list of where do I need the help? Is that hiring somebody like me? Is that maybe just sitting down with your accountant and asking more questions than you've ever asked before, right? Or is it getting marketing help in a way that you haven't considered before to build that practice? Whatever that looks like, but just identifying the gaps and the wins of last year. I think if we're sitting in a new year, sometimes we get a little bit morose around what we didn't achieve the year before as if it was a failure. And I think spending the time to reflect allows us to see the wins of what was accomplished in the last year. And that's more important than the failures, to be honest.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this, Samantha. One of the first questions that I ask when I'm working with a new client is, what is your marketing budget? Now, yeah, nice. I ask that purposefully because I always know that they have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of watch the uncomfortability and the body movements, and maybe making up some, ludicrous number like, oh, it's $100,000 a month. Most, privately held medical practices that I work with don't have that kind of budget. But how vital is it for these physicians, anybody in the healthcare industry, anybody in any industry, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
To know your numbers.
It's critical. It is that concept of you can only control and change what you know. And if you don't know them, you have no idea what's happening. You don't know where you're spending money that you don't need to spend, or where there is that gap. And it's like, no, marketing is a thing. You need to be marketing. You can't just assume hanging out my shingle, there's enough people that are just going to flock to me. That is possibly true, but it's not necessarily your ideal patient either, right? There are certain patients that are going to fit your model or the way that you do business or the way that you practice and your specialty. You want to encourage those into your practice instead of be dealing with clients that patients that just are not the ideal fit for your expertise, and sending them to the person who is their ideal fit, right?
Yeah. And, I'm a real stickler for return on investment. So I remember the first doctor that told me he didn't know what ROI meant. And I was so happy because he was vulnerable enough at least to tell me that.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And so no more business jargon. I don't even, if that's business jargon, we're in a lot of trouble. But I really do think that if you don't understand, marketing is just one example of many, but if you don't know how to do something, like you don't understand social media, you don't understand marketing and ads and Google ads and all of that, but you hire a company, but you're going to oversee what the company's doing of something you don't understand, doesn't make any sense, which will affect your bottom line. So it really does come down to, I find, getting the right people in place, right, Samantha? Like,
yeah.
I think that there's a misnomer out there that because you have an accountant, he's going to be or she's going to be the one to guide you through how you can save money, where their job as an accountant is to file your taxes.
To crunch the numbers every year. Yeah, that's it, right? They're not going to say, look, I was reviewing your expenses and it seems like there's a massive flow of cash going to marketing, and yet I'm seeing no return since you started making that investment. No accountant has time to do that. And that's not their job, right? Yeah. And it's the same as anybody, right? Whether it's, the one I see a lot is with ads, where we're spending so much money on ads and that should be all I have to do. And it's like, No, you still have to take and convert the leads that come in from those ads in whatever capacity that they do into patients. You still have to do that work. That's not what the ad agency's job is either, right? And I think we forget that.
Yes, yes, and to the yes. A client running through my mind right now that hired a really great company, no fault of theirs, they were bringing in a tremendous amount of leads, but if you don't have the staffing in place to close the lead, that's why it's so important that, and maybe you'll expand upon this, like when I think of what you do, I think about kind of what I do. I don't get involved in the finances, but I do get involved with restructuring how everything is working, and then working out a marketing plan, working out a social media strategy, all of that good stuff. And then thinking about the people that we have in place. But I would assume that you kind of come in and you go and you just look at all of the money going out and then matching it and then giving them some good solid advice, because it doesn't matter if you are spending money on ads or on social media or any of that stuff if you don't have the people in place to close the deal.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it is. I take that path of, or maybe I always think of it kind of like a strainer, right? Where I strain everything through. What are we trying to create goal wise? What are we trying to create revenue wise? And we're going to evaluate all of those financial decisions. And then we're going to allocate those funds to specific things that are going to create that return. And yeah, we have that same conversation of sometimes it's hiring. It's that automation or delegation of roles that isn't being done. Sometimes it's sales and promotion and marketing and advertising, or just getting better at whoever is actually the person forward facing for sales. That is that person, every impression a person has of a clinic or a practice, that is critical to the sales process, right? To the decision of them coming to be a lifelong patient of that clinician. And so if you're not doing that well, or that person isn't skilled in that area, or they're not skilled in billing, right? That is a big area where a lot of physicians are just relying so heavily on their billing clerks and all of that sort of thing. And it is difficult, right? It is, you need to spend the money on the expertise in those areas because it does make a massive difference at the end of the day.
Are you still running your medical practice like it's 1990? Well, what about Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants? A medical virtual assistant, I promise you, is the way to run your medical practice today. Why? Because you can save, I don't know, thousands of dollars. No more paying for health insurance, no more worrying about office space. You also have trained professionals. These wonderful human beings get trained, and they have a client service manager that makes sure that your VA that you're working with for your practice is hitting all the goals that you need to make sure that your practice is run efficiently and friendly. Check out Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants today.
Are you tired of the one-on-one grind? You want to break free from the brick and mortar practice and work from anywhere? Ready to impact more lives, work less, all while making more money? Sound too good to be true? It's not. You can actually learn how to do all of this and more at the first annual In This Together live event that's happening in Orlando, Florida on February 20th to the 22nd, 2023. Join your host, Dr. Kylie Burton, and other world-class speakers for an event unlike any other you've attended. And it's for practitioners only. These tickets will sell out, so grab yours quickly. We will provide the link to this event in the show notes. Click.
So,
yeah, you know, I ran two big practices, but the last one, and I've admitted this many times, I think looking back today, I would have 100% outsourced my billing to a company that's literally all they do, because I think sometimes the business owners think it's best to have somebody in-house that they can keep their thumb on. Yeah. Whereas if you think about outsourcing that to a company that's what they do, that's what they're best suited for. They have systems in place. They're touching the electronic billing that's going out, they're touching the accounts payable and the receivables. It's a constant. And if you rely on one person or a team of people that are maybe, dare I say, complacent, Samantha.
Yeah, or eventually complacent, not, because it becomes easier, right? It becomes available to them to be complacent.
And it does. And I think that that's a lot of where money goes up in smoke in practices is the hiring process and not farming stuff out to the right individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like, I need a profit coach. It's just the name, profit coach.
That's literally the response I get all the time is, so wait, you're a profit coach? Well, I need that. And I'm like, I know, you should call me.
You're going to help me make a profit. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, because otherwise it's just a hobby, right? Or it's just an expensive, not necessarily hobby, because it's still work, but if we're not using our business to create the life that we're aiming for, we're doing it wrong. If we're working so hard and so many hours just because you're on that like hamster wheel of like, if I'm not there and I'm not billing, I'm not making money and I don't have enough to cover my expenses, be it business or personal, and I don't ever have time to turn off. I don't have time to be out of the office and available for all the rest of your life, whatever that looks like. But that's the stuff we actually care about, right? And we forget that there's easier ways to do it. There's systems and processes and help you can get. So you're not killing yourself to make a certain amount of money and never getting to enjoy it. That is not why people went into private practice. It's just not.
Well, yeah, and that is the one of the biggest conundrums. And I think that it's a misnomer to think that if you're going to go and open your own business and think that you're not going to work very hard. You are going to work very hard.
You are.
But you could work very smart. I'm here at work today. You're working today.
Yep.
For one reason only. I enjoy it.
Ditto.
Yeah, I actually enjoy what I'm doing, and I have, full-time employee taking care of all of the things that as you listed before, some of the things that I don't like.
Right.
We take those lists a very serious list, and if you haven't done it before the end of 2022, it's a good time to really make that list. I think that I don't think enough energy is put into the list of the things that I love, the things that I like, and the things that I hate.
Yeah. And the things that you hate, just straight up outsource. Like if you hate it, you're going to do a terrible job. You're going to avoid it. You're going to forget it. You're going to it's going to be the thing that you're ruminating on in the middle of the night when you wake up in a cold sweat that you're like, I needed to do get that off your plate so that it can go to somebody who does love doing. There is somebody who loves doing all the jobs.
Yes.
All the jobs.
Let's give an example. I have an example.
Okay.
I hate accounting.
Right.
I hate accounting and I hate bookkeeping.
Yeah.
So I outsourced I have a fantastic outsourced bookkeeping company that I'm happy to mention. They're called Supporting Strategies. And I've been with them for probably, I'm going to say 5-6 years. I got an email this year that said, due to the state of the world, and in order for us to keep really great people in our company, we have to increase what you are currently paying us. Now, they had never increased it.
Yep.
And I got it was like double what I was paying. And I sat back and my first thought was, what?
I don't want to pay that. Yep.
But my second thought was, it was almost immediate. Like, of course I'm going to pay it. Of course I'm going to pay for really great work. So I don't have to worry about it. And I 100% agree with you having to be able to keep people within your company. So you have to pay them more. That makes perfect sense. But some people get tight with that and they don't want to pay the increases, but it's so much better to spend that money than to watch it actually be lit on fire.
Yeah,
what do you see, Samantha?
I see so many. I see the two things I think I see the most is purchases or expenses that are going through that people buy to solve a problem and they don't use it effectively. So it's not actually ever solving the problem, right? Purchasing softwares that we never figure out how to use or implement or like create really deeply into the practice. I see throwing money at stuff, like thinking this will be the solution, but not taking the time to explore who is the right fit for this, or leaning and trusting the people that you do hire. So being willing, I think that coming back like full circle to that vulnerability piece, it is okay to feel dumb and ask the questions to the professionals you hire. You don't need to maintain some like stiff upper lip and like, I know this already, and so you're not telling me anything new. It's like, no, ask 1,000 questions. If your provider is not willing to have that conversation, you've chosen the wrong one, and that's okay. You can fix that. But most of the time, they're just so grateful that a client is willing to go a little bit farther down the path to understand, so that they are a better client for that person, but also so that they are better able to serve them and have that conversation, know that it's not just like sailing right over our heads. And they're like, do you get it? And you want to honestly say like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm not exactly sure how that translates. Or yeah, I get it. I get it. And I will implement that change because now I know why I'm doing it. And too often we try to look like we know what we're talking about when we don't yet. And that's okay.
Yes. And you said something very key, explaining the why. It's very easy to tell people what they should do, but to have somebody understand why they're doing it is truly helps it to almost, come full circle in their mind. A has to match B, and then C, and then D. But, I remember, and it's a long time ago, but I remember at the end of every year, we would have the accountants come, and I would say the same thing every year to the physicians. Now, listen, the accountant's going to come. You're going to have a lot of questions. You're going to think that I know the answer because you trust me, and I've been here for 8 years. I promise you, I don't know the answer. So when the accountants leave, if you ask me any of the questions, I'm going to call them on speakerphone and I'm going to tell them that you asked me the questions. I'm going to humiliate you. And of course, we would laugh about it. But really, it is, a lot of it has to do with just about what you said, and that is just being vulnerable. I don't think anybody expects you to know everything, even if you have an MD or DO after your name. There's a lot of things that I myself am proud to say that I don't know, and I trust the experts to take care of. And I get people in my life that I trust.
Yeah, building that team, right? And really, I think it's that reflection on the year and then building where are the gaps and just filling the gaps and making that the priority moving forward for the next year allows you to feel more confident. And that it might be a year over year growth plan. It's not, this isn't instant gratification. We're not going to be able to fix all the pieces in a month, right? By the end of January, chances are you'll still have stuff to work on. But being in that position of creating that team for yourself just will make all the difference, right? And then you have somebody you can call and say, hey, this is blowing up over here. How do I do this? And somebody can answer you quickly instead of you scrolling around on YouTube.
Oh, amen. Please stop Googling everything. It's so funny that you say that, because doctors are most frustrated by what we call like Google moms or Google experts that come in that know all their symptoms. Well, we feel the same way. We think you understand how to make a profit or how to do marketing or social media or whatever it is. So the YouTube is great for all of your recipes that you will encounter for this holiday season.
Yeah. Don't diagnose yourself on YouTube.
Right.
But the thing I think it is useful for is finding the people that are resonating with you, the experts, right? So if you are seeking out someone, an accountant, having somebody that exists that you can kind of really get a feel for them before you meet them necessarily, even that can be highly valuable. But think of them like a recipe. You still have to make it, right?
Yes. Amen. I tell my doctors, make sure that you, even before you're hiring somebody, if it's going to be like another physician or another nurse practitioner, I say you really should be dating them.
Yes.
Find out if you really actually like them, drive with them, trust them, feel good being around them, because doing business, as much as I was taught, which was wrong, so I had to unlearn this, was that, businesses, it's not personal, it's very personal.
Deeply.
deeply, deeply. Hence why you have to be vulnerable, because this is your livelihood. So Samantha, I couldn't be happier with our conversation. Hopefully other people liked it, but I'm right on the same page with you, sister. I love it.
Yep, I think we are very, very aligned. So this was great.
Well, Samantha's information on how to reach her, which I would highly encourage you to do if you want to actually make a profit. How about a profit coach? So look out for Samantha's information in the show notes. And Samantha, thank you so much for being here. Happy 2023 to you.
Thank you. You too. We are going to make it through the end and get all those presents wrapped and under the tree, right?
Listen, we hope so.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So if you want to party like it's 1999, but run your medical practice like it's 2022, don't forget to check out Riva Global Medical Virtual Assistants.
Don't forget to grab your tickets to the first annual In This Together live event in Orlando, Florida, happening on February 20th to the 22nd, 2023, with your host, Dr. Kylie Burton. Grab your tickets now, link in show notes.